What's up, everybody? I am Jesse. Yes. What's up, everybody? I am Jesse, or GameOverJesse. Here with us is our lovely Daniel and the amazing Ilya. We are going to be reviewing The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. The game Ilya is holding up to the camera right now.
Yes.
We are going to be doing 2 videos on this, as always. We do with most of our Zelda reviews from our podcast. One video is going to be talking about everything we love about the game. The second video, which you could find on the channel as well, is going to be talking about everything we dislike about the game or the stuff that we would change. That way you can't be commenting like, oh, it's a Zelda channel, of course they're going to say good stuff about a Zelda game. So to make sure we're not completely biased, there's the video talking about all the things we love, and the video talking about all the things we hate. We're probably going to do 1 or 2 things each, depending on how long we stay on the different topics. But starting us off, I guess a little bit of information about A Link Between Worlds. A lot of people think that it's just a new Zelda game for the 3DS, and they don't know too much about its development. But it began with Miyamoto, the original creator of the game, wanting to make a remake of it on the Nintendo 3DS, to make it in 3D, to give it depth, because they thought the top-down perspective would look really great, taking advantage of the 3D of the 3DS. Halfway through development, which there's actually a rumor of a Link to the Past remake for a long time before it was actually confirmed. But halfway through development, Aonuma, who's in charge, of the Zelda series now, and became in charge after Majora's Mask, wanted to create a brand new game. He didn't want to make a remake. And instead of completely starting over on something new, they kind of made what I call a reimagining. It wasn't a remake, it wasn't a new game entirely, it was just a reimagining of A Link Between Worlds. It used the same world, some of the same dungeons, just kind of like remade to take advantage of like the wall thing, which is, it doesn't necessarily make sense for the world because it's low roll, not the dark world, but the dungeons are sort of still named the same, and the layout's the same, even though they're supposed to be 2 entirely different places.
Well, some of it. So, like, there's some overlap, but there's also quite a lot that's different
Yeah.
as well. But,
and then like the name of the town, like Kakariko Village is in the same place, which is like Thieves Town, I think.
Yeah. In both, and the Blind the Thief is still the boss in both those games. For that one dungeon. But then there's some differences, like Turtle Rock having an actual turtle and being where Lake Hylia is instead of the Ice Palace, and then the Death Mountain being icy instead of fiery in low roll. So just some things got switched around, but there's a lot of overlap between the 2. Yeah.
There was someone commented on the newest video, which is talking about demise and low roll and high roll and everything, which Ilya did a majority of the voice for. It has Dr. Wily, Commonwealth Realm, specifically Conrad, myself, and Sexy Mac. But someone commented on that video asking that question, like, why does low roll look so similar to A Link to the Past? And I replied and was like, well, the real world answer is it began as a remake of A Link to the Past. Halfway through, they decided to change it to a new game. They didn't want to completely start over, so they just reused all of the stuff that they had so they could finish it a lot sooner and not spend a lot of unnecessary money. Because if they would have started over, it would have costed like millions of more dollars. And then he replied to it, was like, yeah, but what's the lore-based answer? And I'm like, there is no lore based, like, it's the same reason that Hyrule looks different every single time. It's just like there's no real lore answer. It's just because the developers wanted to make it that way. But anyways,
you're asking the wrong question. The real question is why is the Hylian shield found in low rule?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Also, I had this little Link figurine, and I was just fidgeting with it while you're talking.
And you broke it.
And Link's face came off. So.
Doesn't he has a few different faces though, right?
He does. You can change. It's supposed to, but it fell off, and then it just was super creepy. So, yeah, I put it back on. Now he's bald Link.
Oh my god.
All right, Ilya, let's start with you. You're the one who suggested A Link Between Worlds or Link's Awakening. So what do you love about A Link Between Worlds?
There's a lot of things I love about it.
Oh, someone's using the sword emote in the chat.
They are. Blakely Ward.
It's really funny.
Yes. So, Blakely? Have you seen that Ward guy? He's so Blakely. So...
Wait, it's not the Master Sword, is it?
No, it's
because
just
the one from A Link to the
emoji.
Past looks like a normal sword, doesn't it?
A lot of them probably do if they're in 8-bit.
Alright, anyways.
If you look at the artwork, though, it looks pretty much just the Master Sword, but kind of the wrong colors. But
you know,
like the artwork actually looks pretty similar. There's a nice comparison in Hyrule Encyclopedia of the different Master Sword artworks.
We will look at all the artworks.
Yay! I've got that book too. It's right there.
Alright, tell us,
in my
Ilya,
closet
what do you love?
Speak words.
So, just for context, A Link Between Worlds was the first Zelda game that I actually had not seen any previous gameplay footage before playing. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Link's Awakening. I watched my brothers first. Or at least one of them. And so A Link Between Worlds was the first one I was able to pick up and just be like, new experience, I have known nothing about it. And it was great. And there's a lot of things I love about it. And I was going to say the music, but one, that's almost always my answer. And two, technically, I feel like most of the music should just be attributed to A Link to the Past. So, I would actually say...
orchestrated better.
It's true, it's true, and I love the low roll. But I think actually, when thinking about it, my favorite part is the 2D to 3D wall mechanic.
Ooh, that's a good answer.
It's just, like, it's so different, and it's used so well. I feel like that could have gone really weird. You imagine when first pitching that idea, what if Link became a painting and traveled on the walls? People were like, yeah, he's gone nuts.
So I don't know if you guys can see this.
So cool. Yeah, it does look normal.
I don't know if is that meant to be the Master Sword, though, or Link's uncle's sword?
I don't know.
Because he gets the sword from his uncle
Sounds
first,
different.
right? So it could be that. Because he's just got the normal shield instead of the mirror shield, too, right? Right.
Yeah.
Who knows, man?
Yeah.
But there's another artwork. I gotta find it. I'd have to find it. But the artwork of like the Master Sword in the Pedestal in the Lost Woods, which that artwork is beautiful and looks like a screenshot out of Breath of the Wild, but it's from the 90s. But and the Master Sword's design is fairly still consistent. It's just it looks a little not. The handle isn't blue in that artwork. That's the only thing.
Sorry, what, Daniel?
No, that was it. I finished my sentence.
Alright, I thought you were done, but I was a second ahead of you. Ilya, the thing that you were talking about was reused in Mario Odyssey.
This is true.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Which
finish
is
what
very
you were
interesting.
saying.
But not quite as freely in Mario Odyssey.
Well, no, there's a specific objective, but I feel like that mechanic could have been done so poorly, and it wasn't. It was done really well. It opened up a whole new world of gameplay, I feel like, and really made your mind work as far as puzzles go. Really had to make your mind work. And there were some levels that I would be like, why can't I freaking figure this out? Why can't I get to this thing? And I'm like, right, because I need to go into a wall. And it's the last thing I'll say on it is, it's a real testament to the fact that story comes way later, because they came up with this mechanic, and then the entire story has to do with paintings. So, I love it. It was just so well done.
And it also, to add to that, they sort of not just like they could have just built that mechanic for traversing and puzzles and left it at that, but they like worked other mechanics into it. And one of my favorite examples is the hook shot is an item that's been in every Zelda game since Link to the Past up until A Link Between Worlds, I think. Or it wasn't in Breath of the Wild though, but otherwise it's been in pretty much every Zelda game in some form. And then they still managed to make it feel fresh by basically combining the mechanics of the hookshot. And then there's suddenly you're hookshotting into a wall, but there's no ledge, and you just fall, and you're trying to figure out how does this work? How am I supposed to get past here? Then you realize you got a hookshot, and then immediately become a painting into that wall. And just like they take, that's just one example, but they take all these older mechanics that you've seen before in other Zelda games, and they've just got this one new mechanic, and it puts such a different spin on all these other ones too. It's great. Primo stuff. Yes. Jesse, you look so focused.
No, there was something I didn't know. So, it says originally the game was conceived as a sequel to the Nintendo DS games. So, Phantom Hourglass Spirit Tracks.
Oh.
Featuring the cel-shaded Link from Spirit Tracks. So, Spirit Tracks was going to have a sequel, which is weird. The wall merging ability, which is what I was looking up, was already conceived in an early prototype made in 2010 based on this concept, which was approved by Shigeru Miyamoto. With the team focused on the other titles, development did not start fully until Miyamoto suggested to base the new title on A Link to the Past. During the development, the team was focused on achieving a frame rate of 60 frames per second, as well as using the stereoscopic 3D effect of the Nintendo 3DS hardware. So it didn't quite answer my question that I was trying to look up, but there's an interview that I remember reading where Aonuma was talking about how the idea of going into a wall painting first came about. But it is really cool that it says here that it started as a sequel to Spirit Tracks, because right above it says the development of a new Zelda game for the Nintendo 3DS first confirmed in November 2011, while ties to A Link to the Past were hinted at the following year by Aonuma and Miyamoto. A Link Between Worlds was officially revealed on April 17, 2013. So it seems like they originally had the idea from this. At least, they had the ideas of a Spirit Tracks sequel. But then they started working on a Link to the Past remake, and then that turned into A Link Between Worlds. So it went through like a couple of different phases, sort of like the 3 Oracle games. How it began as just a remake to the first Zelda, and then it turned into 3 games, and then that turned into 2 games. So that had 3 phases, kind of like this one, which is interesting. But I wasn't able to find the original interview that I was looking for. Anyways, continue.
What's interesting about that, because you said that was 2010, that they started thinking that it might be a sequel to Spirit Tracks? Is that what you said?
Yeah, there's artwork that it shows here as well.
I was just thinking, I was like, oh, if it was a sequel to Spirit Tracks, that would have converged those 2 timelines, right? Like if it still had the low roll stuff. And then I realized, wait, Hyrule Historia didn't come out until 2011. So if that had been the case, that would have changed things a lot. For lore stuff, anyway.
Is that image on ZeldaWiki.org?
Zelda Gamepedia is the one I'm looking at.
I think that's the same site, actually.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find it. But I remember the first time I saw it.
But it says an early prototype.
It was the first announcement, I think, it was announced as A Link to the Past 2, if I remember correctly.
Oh,
when
that's so cool.
They officially announced the game. But oh yeah, here it is. It is the same site. ZeldaWiki.org is also now Zelda Gamepedia.
The image they're showing is actual, like it's a prototype, not artwork. So it's like an in-engine thing, like it was a playable thing, not just someone's drawing. But it's very blurry. Daniel, would you like to talk about your favorite A Link Between World aspect?
Okay. I want to say the sort of openness of the game. So obviously it's not as open as Breath of the Wild, of course, but unlike many of the previous Zelda games before it, you have a lot more choice in which order to do things. And there's a more natural progression of things because you're sort of doing these dungeons as you discover them rather than following a point on the map, for example. So I love that because I have a huge soft spot for A Link to the Past because it was the first game I have any memory of ever playing, ever. And obviously my first Zelda game. And so I know the world of A Link to the Past very well, and being able to kind of go in it and seeing it the same but kind of different, and sort of naturally explore things and discover things again, and be able to go through those dungeons because in A Link to the Past there's sort of, you technically can do any of the Dark World dungeons in any order, but there's a perception of an order because on the map it literally lists them like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in A Link Between Worlds, there isn't that. So you kind of just discover them, and it's like, oh, okay, here's a portal, you go through the crack in the wall, and you find a dungeon, and you go and do it, because you can. Because you have probably already bought all the items from Leo's shop. And so it doesn't feel like you ever find a dungeon, and you're like, oh, I'm in the wrong dungeon, I should come back here later. You can just go through and do it, because there's that nice openness to the game, not just the world, but sort of the structure of the game has that openness too, and I love that. So that's my answer. Yes.
I like the answer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a very nice answer. You should be proud of your answer.
I'm happy with it.
All right. I guess my turn.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yesy.
I like the what's the best way? The lore or openness of interpretation of some of the lore stuff in it. Specifically, there's a lot of stuff that hint back to the original, A Link to the Past.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing specific that I've talked about before is the old man dressed in green that you come across. There's an NPC, and the game itself as well kind of hints towards him being a previous Link. Specifically the one from A Link to the Past that you play as is just now he's an old man as opposed to a young kid, which is something that a lot of people have said they've wanted to see, like they've wanted to see an older version of Link, and this kind of plays around with that idea because I think you go to him to fight all of the Dark Links, if I'm remembering correctly, and then after you beat all of the Dark Links, you fight him, and he just happens to have all of the weapons that you have. So, like, he has the sword, shield, arrows, everything. So, it brings up the question, like, how does he also have these weapons? Unless he went on his own adventures and collected his own weapons. Why is he associated with the Dark Link? Why is he associated with, like, just the combat in general? Why is he wearing the same outfit that Link wears? Why do the NPCs that talk about him hint towards him going on his own adventures in the past? He's around the same age as Link would be if he did grow up from A Link to the Past. Because the game's supposed to take place like 100 or hundreds of years later. There's no specific time. And we know that characters in the Zelda series can live to be 100 years or older. So there's a lot of things that kind of helps it make sense, and I think it's a cool idea. So, but yeah, that's just one thing. There's a bunch of other stuff in the game that dive deep into like lore and mystery, like why does Link have Majora's Mask hanging on his wall when like the game takes place?
Collector's piece, you know?
Yeah, like now we know like the real world answer. This is another thing with like real world answers and in-game lore based answers. The real world answer is Nintendo was just trying to give us a hint that Majora's Mask 3D was about to release.
Because it's sort of like when they put like pieces of artwork in one game of the next game. So Ocarina of Time 3D had Skyward Sword artwork, and Twilight Princess HD had Breath of the Wild artwork in it, and then Link Between Worlds had Majora's Mask just kind of on the wall in Link's house. Yeah, so like, but we didn't know that at the time. We just thought it was an Easter egg, or at least I did. I just thought it was like, oh, that's a funny Easter egg. That because there were some masks from Majora's Mask in the Wind Waker too, right? Not Majora's Mask itself, but there were some of the masks on the wall and the gallery, the Nintendo the figurine you know the one.
Yeah, well,
you know what I'm talking about.
Wind Waker was originally designed as a sequel to Majora's Mask.
True. When they were first conceiving it.
Yeah, before there was a timeline split.
Before they thought, hey, wait, this makes no sense. So,
well, like with Twilight Princess, like that's the one where everyone was like, wait, how does this work? How do they both reference the same game, but yet there's no flood talked about in Twilight Princess? This doesn't make sense here.
My thought at first, when like Twilight Princess, we're getting very off topic here. Twilight Princess was first like showing off. I thought it was Hero of Time Link again. Like it was going back, and part of the reason I thought of that is that it was like similar art style to Ocarina of Time. Not Toon Link graphics, not flooded world. And in those early trailers, they hadn't recast Link yet, so they actually used the same voice clips as Adult Link. They had just reused them as in Twilight Princess. So if you watch those really early beta trailers, they've got the Ocarina of Time voice clips. And they changed that later, but then, so in my head, it was like just a third Hero of Time game, which I'm sure everyone's still asking for now, but it never happened. But that's what I thought was happening at the time, so.
It's very cool.
Yes, here's a bit of Zelda history from the early 2000s. So.
All right.
I could watch that E3 trailer now and I'd still cry.
Yeah,
it's
but there's so much
epic.
stuff. It's so epic. So much of that stuff is not in the game.
Yeah, but also when you watch it and you're remembering everyone's reaction, I mean, yeah, I didn't know it back then, but watching it now, I'm like, wow.
I took magazine clippings with screenshots of the game and I cut them out and like taped them to my wall. With primo nerdiness.
Yes.
I think we're getting off topic. This guy's giving me the dirty look. He was like, "You're not talking about my game." What's this?
All right. So, moving. Let's go to the next one. What we dislike or hate. All right.
Well,
what's up, everybody?
Dislike?
Yeah.
Oh, we're only doing 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's only 3 of us. So.
Sounds good. Dislike time.
Yeah. The list thing's probably going to take a bit, unless we can speed through it. There's not 4 of us giving our opinions. It's only 3, so it'll be a little bit shorter than usual.
Hey everyone, it's me again, Elia Rose. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. And you know what? If you're a fan of videos like this, you should totally subscribe and give this video a like and comment below to let us know what type of videos you would like to see us create in the future. And if you would really like to support all of us here at the GameOverJesse channel, please consider purchasing a GameOverJesse t-shirt or becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where you can receive many rewards, such as getting shoutouts, having any topic or theory that you select discussed on the podcast or made into its own video, having your question answered, joining on as a guest on the podcast, and playing with us during our Twitch live streams at twitch.tv/GameOverJesse, and much, much more.